Hello and welcome to the official Catchup. Today's a very special episode. We're going to be discussing the League Two playoff between East Kilbride and Stranraer. And joining me today, a man that knows both clubs very well. 5 years at Stranraer, 6 years at East Kilbride. Sean Winter, of course. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm fantastic. Thanks very much for having me on and allowing me a wee chance to have a look back at situations and give you my opinion on certain things that are happening just now. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, obviously, first person that sort of comes to mind when it comes, to the both clubs, I guess. There's obviously been a few players that have played for both East Kilbride and Stranraer, a few that you know about, and we can touch on a few names there as well. But probably the hardest question right at the start, Sean, is it a wee bit of a bittersweet feeling? One, obviously, you made it your goal to get your local team up, and unfortunately it didn't happen for you at East Kilbride in terms of getting the EK up to League Two. I wasn't expecting to be waiting 4 years, later.
Yep.
And on the other hand, obviously you've got kind of foot in the other court as well with Stranraer, a team that you also are kind of close with, and obviously you're an icon at both clubs, or a legend at both clubs as well. So is it a bittersweet feeling?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't probably throw the word legend about, to be fair, but I'd done pretty well and I had good careers at both clubs. For me, you'll know, like, the journey started at East Kilbride. It was literally after I left Stranraer. Probably, if I'm totally honest, didn't leave in the best of terms with either club. I didn't want to leave Stranraer at the time. I've said that a few times when I've kind of done these things, and it was taken out with my hands, and I was released from Stranraer, and had full intentions of staying there for as long as I could. But it happened, and then it opened the door for East Kilbride, and again, I kind of spoke to the owners at East Kilbride, and I liked the idea. I liked the fact that they were looking for local players, players that kind of had something to do with the town, and they really wanted to not just get promoted, but get promoted with a kind of local feel, get the community involved and like that sort of stuff. And I've lived in East Kilbride my whole life, so I really bought into it, myself and Barry at the time, and we bought into it and really wanted to make it happen. And we had absolutely fantastic times at East Kilbride, and we really pushed it close. The one against Cowdenbeath in the final can always obviously sticks in my throat a wee bit, and it's that was a chance for me anyway, to do it. Obviously, it just came down to penalties, and it's just a lottery. And I do think that over the two legs against Cowdenbeath, we were the better team. And then we obviously won the league a couple of years later again, and we came up against a better team. Cove were just better; they were more prepared and were ready. So for me, it all kind of fizzled out at East Kilbride a wee bit, obviously quicker than I wanted to. Again, I bought into the whole idea. I wanted to stay there, and it was just a bit of a weird kind of collection of circumstances. Like COVID happened, and literally right at the start of COVID, I had my wee girl. My work was absolute carnage, and I ended up breaking a bone in my ankle during pre-season that year, and I missed the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, and then from there I just struggled to get back in the team, and I struggled to kind of get back on track, and I just wasn't a player that could just sit on the bench. Or there was actually one game in particular where I was left out the squad, which I felt was a real kick in the teeth. Even though I know I wasn't fully fit, I wasn't 100% kind of ready to play, but there was players on the bench that day that for me they were young boys. There's no way that they would have come on and impacted a game the way I know I could have, even if I was kind of 75%. So that's kind of, for me, that was the big turning point, and I decided, look, I need to go and play. I was getting on. I was struggling to keep my fitness, so I wanted to make sure I was playing constantly. And it was a really tough decision, but that was when I decided that I was going to go and join Barry again at St Roch's.
Yep.
And the manager and Paul, the owners at East Kilbride, they were like, look, we want to put you on loan. And that and I was like, well, what is the intentions? Is that, am I going to be on loan with a view to coming back in a month or two? And I just got the feeling. I just got, when I spoke to the manager and that, and it just didn't. It didn't have any plans for me to actually push myself into the team. If I'd get any sort of inclination that he was going to actually want me to go out on loan with a view to coming back, but it was as if like just kind of wanted me out the door.
Aye.
And I was too kind of proud to stand for that. So I just said, look, no, St Rochs had wanted to actually sign me, they didn't want me on loan. And I just said, you know what, if I just don't get a good feeling. And I was a wee bit disappointed, like they didn't really kind of go out their way to say, no, listen, we want you here, we want you to stay. And that was my mind made up. As soon as that happened, I thought, nah, like it's the right thing. And then after about 2 or 3 weeks, everything gets shut down.
Yeah.
And the whole thing gets stopped. So it was it was an awkward one, but as I said, I had a fantastic 6 years playing at East Kilbride. Obviously, the amount of goals I scored and the amount I was involved and everything. And I really want East Kilbride to do it. I still do. I still want them to do it, but it's a bit of a weird one, as you say, like between my two kind of main clubs of my career. It would be really kind of devastated for everybody at Stranraer and stuff like that as well if they lose all their kind of history that they've had, and I would be delighted at the same time for East Kilbride for actually doing it.
It is a very strange one. As I say, you're the main guy I thought of because your history with both clubs, and it's a lot's changed since we last talked. Obviously, I told you that I listened to the podcast, 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you asked me 4 years ago if I'd still be speaking to you 4 years later and still talking about non-league, I'd probably would have like, what's going on, sort of thing. But a lot's changed back then. SPFL teams didn't get relegated to the lower league as much now. It's kind of commonplace now. Obviously, SPL team, I think, 3 or 4 seasons in a row now.
Yep.
It is a really awkward sort of situation for yourself, Sean. I appreciate that's why I asked that question first, because when I look at the Stranraer team, to me it looks like a League Two side. You've got a Thomas Orr that we know, obviously, used to be at BSC Glasgow. A couple of your former teammates, obviously, Dylan Forrest, that you played with at Cumbernauld Colts, Grant Gallagher. He's been injured most of the season. He's obviously been a big loss experience. I don't know how much time you played with Scott Robertson.
For a couple of years as well, yep.
The gaffer, obviously, Scott Agnew, similar, I think. Yeah, so there's a few sort of, faces in there that you'll know of. And what's it? Obviously, you've kind of been on the other side to Stranraer. You've been the team that I wanted to go up. But what's the general feeling on these two games? Are they, for example, at East Kilbride, you won the lower league. I take it you're not totally celebrating that because that's not the main goal. The main goal's the SPFL, basically.
It's hard because for me, again, like I had never won a league.
Yep.
Leagues are really, really hard to win, as you know. Like there's so many different things, different factors, and it's hard to actually get over the line. And I had never been involved in a team. I'd finished second a couple of times with teams and won cups and stuff like that, which is different. But it's when you actually get over the line, it is a big achievement, and you forget that. It gets kind of lost a wee bit, I think, because as soon as you win that league, you're not really even celebrating because you're thinking, right, the main goal and the goal all along was to get promotion, and then you've got these two playoff games. You've got the one against the Highland League team, and then you've got the one against bottom of the League Two. But so it's going to be tough. But I don't know. The first time again, I think maybe a wee bit of arrogance. I just felt like we were ready, we were good enough, and we had players and everything to see us through against Bucky and Cowdenbeath, and it never happened. And it's a kind of weird one. You enjoy winning a league because it is a massive achievement, but you feel as if you've not really done anything yet. And that's probably the most devastated I've ever felt. Away up at Cowdenbeath when we lost in penalties. I actually didn't feel too bad because you've already felt it and you know what to expect. Against Cove, we just came up against a better team, and I can accept that because they were miles better than us over the two legs, and they deserved it. And you knew the only thing that I would say is I think that if we'd have played Berwick in the final, we would have won as well. So I just think that they were gone. So it was more Cowdenbeath that year against them. I know they brought in a new manager 10 games to go or something like that. They spent a bit of money, and I think he brought in loan players and stuff like that. The team that we played in the final of that playoff was not the team that finished bottom of League Two, and it was like, so you knew you were going to. They'd started a bit like Clyde. They started kind of picking up a lot of results towards the end of the season with this new kind of team that they'd assembled, and they were fighting for their lives. Whereas now, as you say, there's more teams now that are just, once they finish bottom, they're away. I mean, they kind of get through these playoffs now.
Stranraer's been a really funny one for me, because when I was looking at sort of the bottom of League Two maybe a few months ago, I mean, they weren't even in my thoughts. I mean, you mentioned Clyde there. Clyde strengthened heavily in January. I actually thought they'd be pushing, way ahead out of that relegation zone. Yep. Obviously, I went into the final day. Craig Howie, obviously your former teammate, going there, I thought that was a class sign. I think he was just back from Australia or something like that. Yep. But yeah, I looked at Clyde and were like, I don't think he'll mind me saying, but I was messaging Mick about something, and I mentioned that to him. I'm like, I think you'd rather play maybe Bonnyrigg or Elgin City at the time over Clyde, and it's a difficult one for League Two, because I suppose you could say the same at the top, because obviously I feel like if Spartans had Mark McNulty or whatever the full season, they could have been up there with Steny even more so than they are. Obviously they've made the playoffs, which is a great achievement, but look at, it's been happening way too much in League Two, where they've not had the best squads, and then suddenly comes January, we're near the bottom, and then it's a completely different unit.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing, I think, for Stranraer. Look, we all know Stranraer's like a kind of isolated town. It's miles away from anywhere. It's really hard to attract players to go to Stranraer. Obviously, the majority, when I was there, your whole squad pretty much is made up of Central Belt players, and they have to put a lot of resource into getting you down there. And you train up in Paisley and Glasgow and stuff. You're training in that, so it's for Stranraer. They just don't have the resource to strengthen when they need to. Clyde, you can see like the manager they brought in, and then they started signing all sorts of players, and they thought, for me, they looked like somebody like, I get similar to what Cowdenbeath were like that first time. They just were like, we're not going down, and we're just going to put everything they've possibly got into staying up. And they done that, but then you look at Stranraer, and they don't have the resource, they don't have the money to then just start going, you know what, we're in a dogfight here, we need to strengthen, we need to bring in all sorts of players. And it's a shame, it's a real shame, but it's just one of the things, like, they just don't have as much as other clubs to just fire money in and stay up.
Do you feel like there's any advantage? Obviously, you scored the first games at East Kilbride and the second games at Stranraer. Is there any advantage to that, at all, as, being home first, or
100%?
Yeah?
Aye, I would say so. I would say, see the game against, when we played Bucky, and we played them up there, and we were lucky to come away with a draw. Actually, we drew to each, scored right at the end, and took a draw back to K Park. But for me, I think it is a massive psychological advantage, having that second game, knowing what you need to do at your place. And look, at our level, it's not like you're getting thousands and thousands through the gate, right? So the fans aren't a massive factor. Like, obviously, if you're at Celtic or Rangers and you've got a home game, it's a massive advantage that way, fan base wise. But it's just familiarity. You're obviously used to the surroundings. You're comfortable there. You know you've got your whole family and all that coming round, and we knew what we needed to do against Bucky. And then the next tie against Cowdenbeath, it was kind of even more apparent, where we had that home game, and see, not being able to take advantage of that, and then having to go up to Cowdenbeath the week after, and they did have the whole town behind them. I would say there was maybe 2,000-3,000 at the game. Like, they were fighting for their lives. It was the first time they were kind of really looking like they were going to lose their status, and they'd done everything possibly could to actually survive. So it was a tough one, but again, I think we dealt with the situation when we never got beat. You know what I mean? We, over the two legs, it was one each, and we scored the only away goal. So if that was even still a thing, we would have went up in away goals, but we didn't. It's definitely, I would say, an advantage having your home game second, I would say anyway.
Yeah, I mean, always credit that East Kilbride side, for the defensive record they had.
Well, for me, obviously, I don't really look at defence. I don't like defenders. I'm interested in scoring goals and that. So, but no, that's, as you said, it's a massive thing. Like, if we're keeping the ball out the net, because there was a lot of games that were tight, especially the season we won and we Lockie in charge. There was a lot of tight games where we were backs against the wall. We were really really struggling. That time we went on the 30 game winning run. There was games where we should not have won, but the fact that we were not conceding many goals, we kept ourselves in the game, and then we always had kind of quality up top, even like Ross McNeil and stuff like that as well. Who, even with 10 minutes to go, if you're not in the game, we've got players there that will just score a goal out of nothing, and you end up walking away with a win. But it's so important that we didn't concede many at all.
Yeah, is that? I take it that's another thing that comes into. I always talk about mentality being, a big factor in football, because I've been asked quite a lot recently from SPFL fans, why aren't the former SPFL teams challenging and stuff? And I think most of the time, because if you look at, Albion Rovers, they had the best defensive record this season. We've had a really great squad on paper, and I always think it's down to mentality. I mean, these teams have probably, been content in League Two for so long.
Yep.
To then come up against teams like East Kilbride that are going for the Lone League and trying to get promotion every season, that doesn't change overnight. You have to become a challenger.
Aye, well, exactly. Like, there's East Kilbride have been trying this for 10 years now. They've been pushing and trying to get there. Their mentality isn't a case of, right, we finished top 4 or 5, you're quite happy, you're quite comfortable. Like Cowdenbeath and East Stirling, even Berwick, the lot, everybody, all the teams that are coming down, they're probably just thinking, right, we want to just kind of regroup, like have a few seasons where we keep our money tight, get used to this level, and then potentially in a couple of years we'll give it a right good go and we'll try and get back in when the time's right. Whereas as you say, you've got coming up against all these teams that are coming up through the pyramid system. They are absolutely desperate. They've never had their chance. They're desperate, and they maybe want it more. As you say, the mentality, like it's more of a drive to actually want to achieve something rather than just be content. And that's obviously what's happening in East Kilbride. And you say, I'm quite surprised actually that obviously the last time we won the league was that game when, the time when we played Cove and we won it against Spartans. So you're talking about 2019, do you know what I mean? I'm surprised that it's took this long. But like COVID and everything has been a massive factor in everything, not just like how teams are performing, but players and stuff like that. For me, it happened everything just happened at the wrong time. Obviously, like my daughter being born was massive, amazing time for me, but at the same time, it's so hard work. Then you mix in with the COVID, you mix in with work being absolutely carnage because of COVID, and then my age. You know what I mean? I was kind of 33, 34, so I wasn't a spring chicken, do you know what I mean? And I needed to make sure that I was keeping myself fit. And with all that stuff happening around about me, it was just impossible. And then I started just becoming more and more unfit, and it was so hard to keep up. But it's just one of these things. But I'm glad. I genuinely do. I really really hope East Kilbride at some point do get there. And I've just got kind of mixed feelings this year where I want to see them take the place of Stranraer, who gave me my chance in the kind of professional game, if you like. And I had so many amazing memories at Stranraer. And obviously with East Kilbride now, even with the owners and stuff, I really want it for them. Like, they've put a lot of time, effort, money, everything into trying to do this. And I would like to see them do it.
Yeah, obviously I'm always going to be supporting the Lowland League team. I think I'd be shot otherwise, but I think the thing with Stranraer, obviously, it's one of the Scotland's historic clubs. Mm-hmm. There's so much history there. As I say, I'm kind of still in a wee bit of disbelief, and probably until obviously the game kicks off on Saturday, that they're in this position. I mean, they were in previous seasons. I think you could kind of tell who was on the slide. Stranraer, I think they were towards the bottom the previous season too, but they weren't like one of the favourites to be in this position sort of thing, and there's probably a wee bit of uncertainty. I don't think there's a lot of people talking about this, but obviously they have a reserve team in the south of Scotland. Whether that gets affected because of finance or whatever, because they're no longer in the SPFL, I have no idea.
Yep.
But it is a bit of a sad situation. I know, Clyde are overjoyed. I think there was a few people that wanted Clyde to come down, in fairness, but it is a sad one, obviously, and we know ourselves, once a team gets relegated, they're probably going to lose half that squad, to other teams or whatever. I don't know if there's any sort of relegation release clauses or any of that sort of stuff. I think one of the more interesting sort of parts of this whole match that's coming into it is obviously East Kilbride. The way they play, obviously, Mick, possession based, kind of playing out from the back, not your sort of typical League Two sides. I think in the Lowland League you get away with playing like that. Stranraer, I think with general most League Two sides are direct, and I think that's one kind of threat for East Kilbride, because you can have all the possession in the world, but if there's one dangerous target man up there for Stranraer, I think it's going to be an interesting game, and I'm not actually fully confident about East Kilbride winning. I hope they do. I mean, I think they've got a quality squad, but yeah, I mean, you look at, we kind of touched on obviously Stranraer's squad. You look at East Kilbride, obviously Nathan Flanagan's probably one of the best players in the league from what I've seen him this season. Ryan Lockie's fantastic. Dylan McDonald's arguably the best right back in the league, and he's only he's still a young lad. So Tiwi, Yao Baldi, I would say a different EK side to one that you played in terms of the way they play. I think is that a hindrance? Obviously, I always kind of think there's a mixture of styles when you go up.
Well, it's actually like it's modern day football, and modern day management. I have a kind of regular joke, obviously with group chats with Malky and Woodsy and Jama and Barry and that, and it is a kind of regular thing. Like, nobody plays football direct anymore. Nobody sets up like the 4-4-2, plays two strikers. Everybody wants to just play this. Nobody takes by kicks anymore. And puts them up for somebody to flick on and stuff like that. And I was pretty good in the air, and under Lockie especially, we were such a direct team. We just did try and play at the back. We just tried to get the ball high up the park and play our football high up the pitch. And that's why I think we kind of, like you're saying there, that's why I think it was so successful, because we knew we were better individually than pretty much any team at that level. And then when we did come up against teams that just sat in, we knew that they weren't going to be near our goal, so we just kept bombarding them, and eventually, more often than not, it took its toll and we won. But I'm not a fan of the modern day tactics. Everybody tries to do it, and I've always said it. And one thing for me, Billy Stark was a great guy, great manager. But he came in after Lockie, and he came in with the whole kind of Scottish FA mentality that he's got, the background, the badges and everything was just purely like possession based. Get the ball, keep the ball, be patient, and we didn't win that league that year, but we ended up, we lost it in the last day, if you remember, against Stirling Uni. If we'd have won, then we would have won the league, because Spartans drew with Stirling, I think, and we ended up getting beat. But we went on a run, the second half of that season, we went on a massive run, because we'd had plenty of chats, like myself and Billy and Mark McBride and Barry and that, like, obviously the experienced players, because we were struggling at the start of the season. But for me, a big part of that was we were trying to play too much football, and like you're saying there, that doesn't work at this level. Like, it works most times, especially against the better teams. It works, of course, because you're playing against a team that wants to try and play as well. But there's a lot of teams in the Lowland League that know they're up against a team that are better than them, and they just sit in. And I felt like with Billy, we were really struggling to kind of break teams down. We were keeping the ball. You're probably talking 80-90% possession in every game. But then when some team just sat, we just struggled to be that kind of direct way. And then the second half of the season, Billy ended up going 4-4-2. We were having chats, and he went 4-4-2. We started playing a wee bit more direct. He was a wee bit more relaxed in how he wanted us to play. and we started battering teams, and we went on a mental run. I think the only game we dropped points was that. I think we dropped the points at Annan, we drew, and then we got beaten that last game of the season, but we won every other game. So, like you're saying there's a time and a place, but I think League Two, Lowland League, maybe not so much now. I'm a bit out the loop, obviously, the last few years, but certainly when I was there, I think the higher you go up levels, that's when you kind of see the better teams playing better football, and everybody tries to do it against you, so you can get away with it. But I think there's got to be a balance.
Yeah, I mean, I was always kind of known for being critical of Bonnyrigg Rose when they won they won the league. They won it with most points and wins. Maybe not most wins actually, but Robbie's a great guy. But we disagreed on football because I mean they were a team that mostly made use of their set plays. They scored. Yep. They didn't score many from open play basically, and Lee Curry was banging in free kicks every week, getting penalties, and the set plays were brilliant, and that's how they done it. But I always felt when they went into league football, if you keep playing that similar way, you're playing the same. You're playing the same teams. It's not like playing home and away. You're playing the same teams 4 times a season, so they're going to work you out very fast. And I think that's what happened with Bonnyrigg. But yeah, I mean, in terms of they won games, they won the Lowland League that season brilliantly. But I do worry about some teams I think they're a fantastic football side, and but would they last in League Two? I'm still not sure because they play.
Aye, no, I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think like the East Kilbride team, probably more so over the last couple of years. I think, and knowing the owners in that, they're kind of throwing the kitchen sink at it now because it's been that long. And they've put so much into it, and they're desperate to get there. And some of the players they're signing, we signed a lot of good players and we brought players down, but the players that seem to be attracted now are players that are in their prime at a top level, and they're bringing them in. And you would never have seen that. I actually remember when we first won the league, East Kilbride, there was 9 players from the starting 11 from East Kilbride in our team. I think it was one of the games against Spartans. So, and even players like BJ and that who weren't from East Kilbride, but they've been there for years and they bought in there. It was very much a team that everybody was playing for the town. Everybody wanted to do it for East Kilbride, and we all bought into the same idea. We all went there because of the want to try and get our local team up into the professional leagues. I don't think there's really anybody from East Kilbride anymore, and I think that kind of element of East Kilbride has went out the window. I think they're not really caring about that side of it anymore. It's just a case of get into the leagues and then do it whatever way you can. Which is fine, and I understand it. I totally understand. I get why the Keens would want to do that and why they're desperate to do this, because you've tried everything. You've tried all sorts of different styles and techniques and whatever, and now it's a case of let's just get there, and then they can maybe start to think a bit more about the community again. But that's one thing that I kind of lost. I think East Kilbride's lost a wee bit of disconnect with the town and what they were originally trying to do to get there. But you can understand why.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because, when you left, I think it was a weird, I think it was December or something, wasn't it? As you say, I think it was just before Christmas. And I was shocked too, obviously, you were at the team and you weren't playing stuff like that, and I was thinking to myself, and obviously the news came out, you're leaving and that, that came out of nowhere. But in fairness, Sean, I think you were the last of what I like to call the old EK guard because a lot of the boys left probably in the summer. I think you were the last sort of original EK boy to leave there, and I was thinking, it's a total change, even from 2-3 seasons ago. I think that whole idea of EK local lads, maybe apart from a couple of youth players, I'm not certain, but I think that's been like that for a while with EK. Maybe it's not necessarily local lads, but I think you're right. There is a bit of a disconnect there. I think it's difficult, especially. I mean, even looking at maybe the likes of Gretna, they can't really decide season on season what they want to do. They go local lads one season, now that's no work, we'll go back to getting guys from the Central Belt. That doesn't work, and then they kind of switch up a wee bit.
you get kind of no desperation, right? But you kind of change because you obviously just you're trying anything to be successful. And look, to a certain extent, we were. You know what I mean? We won. I think I won about 10, 11, 12 cups for East Kilbride. You know what I mean? Like in my time there, so we done well. We just didn't go over the line, and that's the frustrating thing, because that would have been perfect for what the owners and everybody wanted to do when we first had that conversation and Barry and myself went in, was that's the way we wanted to do it. We wanted to do it with a kind of localish team. We kind of try and get the community involved, and we did. You know what I mean, with the Celtic game and stuff like that as well.
Yep.
The town people didn't know who East Kilbride FC were when I joined in very quickly after the Celtic game and everything. I remember everybody used to call us EK Thistle because that's what people realised. That's the team that people remembered from East Kilbride. Then it very quickly changed, and everybody knew who EKFC was. So we kind of put that team on the map over the first couple of years, and we done everything the way we kind of talked about and the way we wanted to do it. It was everything was going exactly the way we wanted it, and we just couldn't go over the line. And then over the years, it has changed. It has just been like, right, too much time and effort and probably money has been spent on this. Yep. Just do what you can to get over the line, and that's it now.
One guy we've kind of mentioned, I don't know if he's still your neighbour, but David Proctor, when we last talked, he was in, I think he was caretaker at East Kilbride at the time. We've obviously talked about a lot of the managerial changes at East Kilbride. Obviously, it's been a brilliant season under Mick Kennedy, but have you been kind of keeping up with David Proctor? Obviously, your former team, Cumbernauld Colts.
Yeah, I'm a pally with Proctor. Look, he's got a young family. I've got a young family. He's got Cumbernauld, and I'm kind of working away in that as well. So it's, like everything else, you keep in touch as much as you can. But I was really pally with Proctor, and not just football wise, but personally, and kind of he's a good pal. And he does live round the corner from me still. But I think obviously when I joined Cumbernauld, that was a big factor. He was going there as a kind of assistant manager. I spoke to him and the manager there, and obviously I understood. I liked what they had to say, and the setup at Cumbernauld Colts was brilliant with the facilities and stuff like that. A well run club, Cumbernauld Colts. And if I'm 100% honest, I don't think Prox was too happy when I decided to kind of hang up my boots at the end of that season.
I wasn't happy either, man.
It's kind of, obviously it's worked out well for him, but I was the kind of big part. Obviously, I scored a lot of goals, but I wasn't happy, actually. I was not happy in my fitness and my performances. Although I was scoring, my game was changing, and I just wasn't. I don't enjoy play. I didn't enjoy playing because I just felt like there was too many young players that were a lot fitter than me, and even though I was scoring, I just didn't feel good. And we weren't having the best of seasons, put it that way, as a team, even though I was scoring a lot of goals. But I know the Prox was coming in as a manager the year after, and he was wanting me to stay, and he was saying to me, like, obviously, like one of the more experienced guys, myself, Homer. And he wanted us, and then to build a kind of younger team round about. And I think he probably wasn't too happy when I just said to him that I was going to just hang up my boots. And I actually think that I ended up, I obviously chucked it, and then after a few months I decided I was going to EK Thistle just to play with Barry and that again. And then it kind of went wrong there.
Yeah.
And about Christmas, I'd actually just mentioned, I remember saying to Prox in passing, like, bring me down, I'll come back in and just get training again. And he was like, well, to be fair, he says they've kind of changed. Like, obviously when I was there, like, I was the main striker. And he knows I wasn't, my movement, my fitness wasn't amazing, but they played to kind of my strengths because he knew I would score goals. Whereas that season, they brought in kind of a lot of young boys, a lot of runners and stuff like that. So they kind of changed the way they played. So when I said to him, look, can I come down? I don't even know if I would have, but I just suggested it, kind of, I'll come down. And he was like, well, we play differently now. And it's not just like we don't have one kind of main focal point up front and stuff like that. And I got the feeling that it probably wasn't, he didn't want to say no to me. but he was kind of saying no. Do you know what I mean? And whether or not it was just in the back of his mind that I'd no shafted him, but I'd kind of left when he was just getting his chance into management. But look, as I said, I've never felt it with Prox, and I'm still pals with him. And if I see him, I talk to him and that, you know.
He's had a brilliant season at Cumbernauld.
Oh, they've been brilliant. Super. I honestly could not be happier for him. Like they're punching way, way, way above their weight, and it's obviously largely down to him and being able to bring in the type of players that he wants. And look, you've got fantastic facilities, as I said. The pitch is incredible at Broadwood, and it allows you to play whatever way you want to play. So he's done brilliant. I'm so happy for him.
Another player, I kind of mentioned this, Sean, I mentioned it on Twitter as well, but another player that's kind of, I think on the last podcast he said would never be a coach, and he player coach this season, Martin Gray, and he's retired, obviously, your former teammate at Stranraer. I think he got into the all-time Lowland League team, like, you know, with yourself. Mm-hmm. Any words for Paolo?
No, listen, he's obviously I had a wee wind up with him on Twitter. Said that he's one of the most boring guys. He's got a bit of a reputation, I think, just the way he is. He's always so laid back and he's just chilled, and his partner's not the best. But look, I tried to bring him in at East Kilbride, believe it or not, at one point, and he came down for a couple of games, and for whatever reason, it never happened. But then he's obviously went on and done brilliant things in the Lowland League. Like, he's just so consistent. But he's one of the most talented players I've played with. Like, all round game is just brilliant. He's not the quickest, but he's all round game outside the box and scoring goals, and he's just so kind of laid back and just naturally gifted that he's done brilliant. And to be fair to him, he's similar age to myself, and he keeps himself in shape, and I've got a lot of respect for people that do that, because I know how hard that is at that age when you've got a young family and stuff like that to do it. So hopefully he does well. Not sure how he'll be as a coach, because I don't know if I would ever take him seriously, but he's done brilliant to have the career that he's had, and I wish him all the best.
Another player that was mentioned, funny enough, has both played for East Kilbride and Stranraer, smashing it in the Championship with Queen's Park, Rory Payton. He was kind of an early favourite of the Catchup, kind of similar to yourself, Sean. Obviously a lad with a lot of skill. I read an article last year, I think, where he was struggling a wee bit, obviously, during his time with East Kilbride, and envisage Rory being that successful and obviously making that high up into the Championship.
Aye, I would actually 100%. Like, Rory actually lived in East Kilbride when he joined, and we used to pick him up, and myself and Malky and that were quite pally with him when he was at East Kilbride, and he was a young boy when he came in. To be fair, I know he was at Gallifreydine the year before, and I remember him actually when he was playing against us, and he was a good player. And I spoke to the owners and the manager and that, and they were talking about bringing him in. And look, you're always a wee bit like, there's young boys coming in and stuff like that, and I know how much we wanted to get promoted, and I don't know, maybe a bit of a gamble, like bringing somebody in that's a young boy that you don't know much about, and I'm thinking we're wanting to push to get promoted and stuff like that. Is this kind of the route you want to go down? And as soon as I seen him, I liked him straight away. It was like, it's just his attitude is, honestly, I've not seen many players with a better attitude. He's just so desperate to do better for himself, and he just, even after every training session, he'd be out hitting free kicks for a half an hour, 45 minutes after everybody goes. He'd be working constantly on his game, and he was just desperate to kind of be the best version he could be of himself. And don't get me wrong, he was raw. I do remember that about him. Like, he was raw, and we came up against, as you know, like a lot of big kind of strong defenders, like experienced guys at the Lowland League, and they came up, and I would say if I was probably one of these more experienced guys, then I would, in certain games, I would be quite happy to play against him at the first, because he was so naive, and he would get involved in arguments and battles, and these guys got him exactly where they wanted him, because they would wind him up, and when he gets wound up, he would put him off his game, and he wouldn't be playing as well. Like, he would be trying so hard to kind of get one up on these guys, and it would just be so worked up, it wouldn't be happening for him sometimes. But he had all the attributes. I knew straight away that he's got all these attributes that are are perfect to push yourself on, and he had the right attitude as well. And he'd phoned me actually because we went to Stranraer, sure, like when he left, and he'd phoned me and said that like, I've been offered to go, and I actually said to him it was the year that I ended up leaving East Kilbride and he ended up moving on. But he phoned me like before he'd signed because they were wanting to sign him on, obviously at East Kilbride and keep him on. But he got a couple of offers and he said to me like, obviously I've been offered to go to Stranraer. What do you think? Like, and I told him about the club and said it's a fantastic opportunity. But I actually, from a wee bit of a kind of selfish point of view, I was wanting to stay at East Kilbride, so I was kind of saying to him, look, it needs to be right. And I was kind of, I did mean what I was saying. Like, for somebody his age, and he was at Hibs, and then he's kind of went down to that level, and then started doing well and had a good season at East Kilbride.
Yep.
And I was thinking, right, well, maybe the time isn't right. Like, you need to pick your right moments because I know you can end up going to a team, and if you're not playing and you don't hit the ground running, then you might not get many more chances. So I was thinking, for a selfish point of view, I would like him to stay at Scotland because I wanted the best players there and to give it a good go and try and do this again. But for him, so I said to him, like, wasn't much help with him. To be fair, I said to him, like, it's totally up to him. Like, if you believe you're good enough and you will make an impact, then go for it. But I kind of said to him, like, could be a good option to stay at East Kilbride and try and push yourself and have another great season, and then who knows, then maybe the time's right. But what he totally believes in himself, and he's shown now that how good he is. I think he's in the Championship Team of the Year as well, isn't he? So I'm delighted for him, and who knows, he's still young, relatively young, and he's I think look, his attitude is absolutely amazing. I've not seen him playing in a couple of years, but if he continues to work on the stuff that he's maybe not quite as good at, which he does, I know for a fact he does do, then who knows, you could see him maybe in the Premier League over the next year or two.
It's been a really good success story. That's why I mentioned Rory, obviously, and you haven't played with him. And again, I like seeing that, the young guys, obviously, if they choose to go up the leagues. I know sometimes it's circumstance, like you mentioned, obviously with family and work and whatever. But I'm always delighted to see the young guys progress and do well, get their opportunity.
Yep.
Rory's been definitely one of the ones that I look at and think, wow, that's a success story. And hopefully one day he does play in the Premier or for Ireland or whatever. Just around that, mate, I'm not going to put too much pressure on giving me a result, but what are your expectations for the two legs? I don't know.
Well, no, listen, like, my feelings, right? It's a really, really kind of awkward one for me. I'm desperate for East Kilbride to do this and get over the line, but at the same time, I've still got a lot of people I talk to at Stranraer, and none more so than Robert Rice, he was the kind of chairman and he's been in the committee for years. He was there when I was there, and I'm kind of really pally with him just now. And they see what people don't realise is when you're at teams, when you support a team like Stranraer, and you've committed your time and your support to them. That's what you live and breathe. These guys are absolutely all for their hometown. It's everything for them, and I would just be so devastated for them if they get relegated. My gut feeling, I think East Kilbride will do it. I think they're going to be too strong for them, and I just looking at the two squads and the way Stranraer have kind of folded over the last 10 games, and the way East Kilbride have just been consistently very good, then I can't see past them. I don't know what I would like to see. I would really love to see Stranraer saving themselves, but for me, I think they're on borrowed time. I think if they don't go down this year, teams like Stranraer and that, unfortunately, probably over the next 5 to 10 years, are going to end up keep being in the same position because you just don't have the resource to compete with some of these ambitious clubs that are coming up now.
Say the worst happens and Stranraer do get relegated. Just a hypothetical on this one. I didn't want you to get my hopes up, or the Stranraer fans, but obviously Paul Wood's recovering from a serious knee injury, 16 months out. He's playing another season. If he stays on at Stranraer, I'm not sure, but Stranraer, end of the season, they lose a lot of players. You know, do you get the call? Sean, we want you to come back in the Lone League.
Well, I tell you what, like, I don't think it would happen. I don't think people would. Look, I've not played in over a year now. Well,
yep.
Just about. I was playing obviously amateur in East Kilbride and that as well, and I was scoring goals. Like I play sevens every week with my brothers and that and stuff. And look, when you're playing and you miss it, like when I'm playing there and I do something in sevens, and I know it's just a game with your pals and stuff like that. But I think to myself, well, do you know what? Like my kids are a wee bit older now. My wee girl obviously now is coming up for 4. My boy's 11. He's like a breeze. So, and my work settled down, everything's kind of away from COVID and stuff like that. And I'm starting to get myself back in a routine with going to the gym. And see, the more I get fitter and the more I'm playing sevens and enjoying playing a game, like it makes me think, well, I'm actually only 36. Do you know what I mean? I'm not way over the hill. And it would be good to maybe give myself another wee year somewhere. And well, it all depends. As I said to you, at Cumbernauld Colts, I scored a lot of goals. And I done well. I had a good season personally, but I didn't enjoy it because I've always been fit. Like I've always my work ethic and teams is probably one of my. I've always said that I'm not the most technically gifted player, but I work my socks off, and I've got a certain amount of ability. I can score goals and stuff like that. So I would need to be fit because at Cumbernauld, I remember coming up against like the unis, and I remember playing still in uni. All the guys, they probably ability wise weren't on my level, but like fitness wise, they were way above. And even so, it doesn't really matter how good I was. Like I remember getting pushed off the ball, and these wee guys who were just built with tanks, and I'm trying to push them because I like getting involved a wee bit in games, and I just didn't have that anymore. And it actually it was embarrassing in my head for me at times playing at that, and I wasn't that when I wasn't as fit as I should be. So it all comes down to if I can get myself fit, then who knows? Like I'm not going to say 100% might happen because it might not, but I would love to get maybe another wee year somewhere. So we'll see.
Planting that idea in your head, mate. Just planting it in there. But it's been great speaking to you again, Sean, catching up on that. And I know it's an awkward one, obviously, where you're associated with both sides, but it's obviously you're honest as ever, obviously on these things. So I really appreciate that. And no matter what happens, obviously I'll try and keep in touch with you. But
appreciate it.
Stranraer back in next season.
Thank you. We'll see what happens.